Hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming to the Let It Go, Flow, and Grow podcast. I am your host, Rubes. I hope that your weeks have been going absolutely fabulous. I ended up going through a lot of a shift in perspectives this week. Um, and to be quite honest, I just ended up recording like almost 20 minutes for an intro. And I realized that I didn't have it in the right microphone. So I listened to it and it came out all choppy. And I was like, no. I was so mad. I almost just was like, it's fine. It's fine. Just let it go. But I'm kind of a perfectionist. So I decided I'm just going to redo it and I'm just going to make it shorter because honestly, I was rambling a little bit. So it's fine. Anyways, so this week I ended up going through a lot of perspective changes. I ended up kind of realizing that I had not really surrendered, I guess, to to God or the universe. And that's been, well, I kind of already knew that. But I was able to detach more this week. And just kind of realize that at the end of the day, creator has my best interest at heart. And that's just the reality of it. And, that really helped me to realize what detachment is just letting go of what you think the outcome is going to be and just knowing that it's going to work out for you. Um, so I ended up finally feeling that click into place this week because I was praying about it, and Jesus was like, "Hey, so you've already asked me to do that prayer where you either bless it, have me bless it, or block it." And so he's like, "So if it's for you, I'm going to bless it. But if it's not for you, then I'm going to block it." He's like, so there's really nothing that you can do to mess up what is for you. So realize that. And I was like, yeah, that's true. That is true. And he ended up blocking something that I was really, really trying to force into my life that was causing me to not act the way that I want to act in life. Um, but it also ended up kind of giving me that space to learn where I want my priorities to be, including this podcast, and just like shifting my perspective on a lot of things. So that was good. That was fun. Not really. That wasn't really fun, but it has been more fun these past few days. Um, and I've been praying to God about it a lot more. And He really put it on my heart that the way that I can use this podcast is as a platform to really share my voice on the things that have happened to me and on the things that I have learned on my journey. And I think that I was kind of doing that at the beginning, but I haven't really been doing that as of much lately. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to start teaching you guys kind of things that I've been learning from my own perspective through my own journey, and kind of explain a little bit more in depth what it means to really love every part of yourself. I know that I've already gone over like the internal family system whenever I already went over previous episodes. Um, so if you want to look more into that, I would recommend doing that. I am in EMDR right now, and I've been doing it for a long time. It has been extremely life changing for me. And I made the grown up decision to go back on medication this week. And I have been microdosing psilocybin for a very long time. And it has been extremely beneficial for me. Like, really, it has been very helpful for me. But I have realized that it would be better for me to have some sort of mood stabilizer or something that can really regulate my emotions, because my emotions sway so much, even with the amount of in depth work I have done. And so I made the grown up decision that I'm going to go back on mood stabilizers. And to be quite honest, it's been great so far. So that was one of the things that I ended up shifting my perspective about this year or this week. And by doing so, I also gave myself or had the space to really, as I just said, prioritize what was really important for me. So I don't know what book this is in. I want to say it's the 48 Laws of Power, but I don't think it is. I want to say maybe it's like the psychology of money. But it's in a book, and it's kind of known that those who are millionaires and billionaires, they don't look at a year in like a 12-month layout. They look at a year in quarters. So it's every 3 months. You're supposed to have a goal that you meet the deadline of. And that way, whenever you set those like new year resolutions, you don't just let them fall away because you're like, oh, I have 12 months. So, like, I don't even need to do this. Like I've got 11 more months to go to get this done. No, it's kind of the understanding that you set smaller goals, I guess you could say, that are still important, but set them in a smaller time frame. So you're only doing it, you'll realize, oh, I only have 3 months to get this done. And so I don't know, it makes you a little bit more proactive. And so I decided to integrate that into my routine this year. I also ended up realizing, oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. Dang it. Oh, that's what I was going to say is if you haven't read the book Atomic Habits, I would definitely recommend it. It's all about integrating healthy habits into your life. And it only takes 21 days for a new habit to really be formed. So I think setting habits to get up to your goal is very important. And yeah, my best friend Jenny ended up pointing that out to me. And then I ended up praying on it and getting more clarification. So that's been really great. But I ended up realizing this week that this podcast has been a wonderful way for me to be able to share my story and share my voice. And so I've decided that I wanted to share more of my story than I have been because I feel like lately this podcast hasn't been really, I don't know, putting out what I want it to do. And it's wonderful to be able to talk about all these different awesome topics, but I want it to help people. And so I decided that I'm going to start talking more about the things that I'm unraveling in EMDR and in journaling and in my shadow work. And so here it is. So um, I ended up working more with my 8 to 10-year-old self this week. And she ended up coming forward. I actually haven't met this part of me until this week. And she ended up coming forward and she explained that her role is to help carry heavy stuff that I am not ready to deal with yet until the time is right. And so she ended up bringing up these old memories that I had not completely forgotten about, but mostly forgotten about. And so whenever I was a small kid, up until the age of 7 or 8, I ended up going through an immense amount of trauma. And I'm talking about like years of trauma that somebody would experience, usually over their lifetime, if they come from like a nicer, maybe middle class or higher neighborhood. Um, and so I ended up getting integrated, or I ended up starting to go to this school whenever I was around 8 years old at second grade. And I ended up staying at that school for the rest of my schooling until I went to college. And to be quite honest, it was kind of a cult. It's kind of like a running joke between the people that I graduated with. Um, I went there from, I guess, 10 years, maybe longer, maybe 11 years, counting second and 12th grade. Um, but I ended up going there for a long time. And I only had 8 people in my graduating class. And I endured trauma at that school. I mean, I had like trauma nightmares for years and years after. Um, but overall, the education was great. Like, I am very thankful to my grandparents for putting me and my brothers through that school because it was a great education. And whenever I got to college, that was proven by the fact that I was like, I just was more prepared. for college. And the fact that I even had the opportunity to go to college is awesome. Um, but going back to my 8 to 10-year-old self, she ended up kind of explaining some things to me. And so one of the memories that she ended up sharing was the fact that she felt very different. I guess she's a part of me, but she felt very different than all the other kids that were around her. And a lot of the kids that I went to school with still had parents that were together. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just like I didn't have that. Like my mom was very sick. She was out of the picture. My dad was out of the picture. And I was living with my grandparents, and my grandfather had pancreatic cancer. So we didn't have like an American dream kind of life. A lot of the kids that I went to school with were very privileged, and they didn't realize how privileged they were. And I'm not like saying that in a demeaning way. I'm just explaining that like they had a nice life. And so like they hadn't really faced any hardships in their life, which is awesome. That's great for them. But me coming into that school, I definitely had been through so much by that age that I felt like very alienated. I felt very foreign to everyone around me. And so we used to have these things called donuts for dads. And donuts for dads, if you've never heard of it, basically, or muffins for mom or grandparents' day, they would have the dads come in and they would eat donuts with their kids. But it kind of was not super fun because if you didn't have a dad come in or like a parental figure come in for that, you weren't able to really eat any of the donuts until all the dads were done. Then the kids could have the leftovers. But it was kind of like a not, I don't know, it wasn't a very fun experience. Like you're punishing kids because they don't have dads or like their dads couldn't show up. Like, I don't know, that just sends such a terrible message to kids. And I didn't realize, like, I kind of realized, but not really, how much that impacted me. And my brother would like sometimes show up, but he felt kind of weird about it because like he had school and he's like, I'm not your dad, like I'm your brother. And my grandpa was in and out of the hospital. And then it was just such like a difficult situation, like not having parents and then kind of being punished for that in a way. So she ended up explaining that like not feeling accepted and not feeling validated started from a very young age. And I think that started even from like before going to that school. But she ended up sharing that memory with me. And she also shared that memory with me because she wanted to emphasize how different I felt from other people. I mean, like I don't even think most of like my close friends now even know like half of what I've been through. I think there's very, 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 very select few who know. But some of my closest friends or who I love very deeply or very dearly, they don't know the things that I've been through. And so anyways, moving forward, so because she did not feel or I did not feel accepted or validated, I finally ended up telling kids at that time my story. And a lot of them would say, I remember they used to say, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I've heard that so much in my life. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I never understood like why people would say that because I'm like, it's not your fault. Like, you didn't do anything. And they'd be like, no, I'm sorry because that's not normal. And like, they didn't know what else to say. They're like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened to you. And I never understood it because I was like, I don't want you to apologize. I just want you to understand why I am the way that I am and like why I'm so different from you. And that's where like the starting of me telling people my life story so that way I could at least have the attempt of being accepted later on in life started. I would basically start to over explain myself and be like, oh, this is why you should give me a chance because I've been through all of these things. Um, and now that I've gotten older, I think, you know, sharing your story is important, but I don't think that it should be something that you tell to somebody immediately, um, because at the end of the day, your story does not define you unless you let it. However, I think it's also important that you tell your story so that you can process and have closure and maybe help somebody else. And that's what I'm trying to do now. But whenever I went to college, I ended up basically like trauma dumping on people, which is like so humiliating and embarrassing looking back. But I'm like trying to have grace and compassion for that 18-year-old part of me because I just wanted to be accepted so badly. And growing up from this age, I realized a lot of kids did not accept me because they never understood my story. But I mean, there's going to be people who don't want to accept you. And that's just something that you have to come to terms with because the things that you have been through shouldn't be a reason as to why somebody accepts you, if that makes sense. Um, I don't know. So whenever I was a kid, I finally ended up, like I said, I finally ended up telling people what I had been through. And then finally, like people were giving me validation and acceptance and compassion, which is something that I was like craving at that time. And I ended up going home and I told one of my grandparents about the fact that I had told people about the things that I had been through. And one of my grandparents ended up getting very, very, very angry with me, and getting and chastising me and being like, that's not your story to tell. I don't want people at this school knowing my business. I don't want them to know why we are different than everybody else. And basically told me that I was not allowed to share my story. And so, what this part of me was trying to explain is that a reason, as to why I ended up going into this more pick me behavior as I got older. One of the layers to that is trying to be like, hey, pick me, I deserve to be loved. But then, in conglomeration with that, over explaining my story so that way I can give good reason as to why I deserve to be loved. Because from a very young age, I felt like I had to earn love. And I think a lot of people feel that way. I think a lot of people feel that way, and it's very alienating, for a child to go into a classroom whenever they are young and see all these other kids with their dads and their parents and, be told that they are different from the rest of them because their dad showed up so they get to eat a donut and this kid doesn't because they don't have a dad. Um, Now I'm like tearing up. So I ended up also realizing that that was a big reason as to why my throat always closes up whenever I try to speak my truth, or even whenever I'm like doing this podcast. Like, that is a big reason why my throat will close up and I'll feel like I'm gasping for air. Um, and so, God really wanted me to use this platform to tell my story and help other people. And that was another thing that my 8 to 10 year old self was explaining to me is that, this podcast was going to be very, very healing for me, and a good way for me to exercise my voice and not feel like my throat was closing up. And, putting this foundation down so that if I have to stand up to another authoritative figure, maybe my throat won't close up next time. Um, or if I have to stand up to anybody, I can like feel it starting to close up now. Um, but I've decided that, it's time for me to tell my story, and not do it so that way I can earn love, and not do it so that way somebody will accept me, and not do it to over explain why I am the way that I am, but to do it so that way, one, I can tell my story finally, but two, also hopefully it'll help someone and, help them understand that they aren't alone. Um, so yeah, that's the thing that I learned this week is that, um, I get to speak my truth, and that's the whole reason why I have this podcast. And, I ended up picturing, me and my family and God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and all these different parts of me going in to that elementary school classroom and just giving so much love to that part of me and reminding her that she is loved and that I do love every part of me as I get to know them. And that's what loving yourself is. That's what loving yourself is loving every single part of you, the good and the bad, and forgiving yourself for mistakes and heaviness and baggage that you've been holding on to for a very long time. That's why doing the work is so important. That's why doing the shadow work is so important. Um, but I know that that's scary for some people. I know personally, I ran away from it for a very, 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 very long time. And I started that in 2022. And here I am now in 2025 with still more work to do. But man, have I gotten through a lot. And I have gained a lot of my power back and understood really who I am at the core through doing the work, but also understanding that like my value and worth is not defined by somebody else. And accepting the love, the unconditional love that creator is and is gives out. Um, and spreading that love not only to myself but to other people. So moving forward, I do have a whole episode for you. It's all on dreams and astral projection today. Very, very fun. I love talking about that stuff. And yeah, thanks for listening to what I worked through this week in EMDR and journaling. And thank you for giving my 8 to 10-year-old self the space to come and talk about the things that she has been holding on to for almost 20 years now. um, so, yeah, let's move forward into the show. Also, I think it's very important that I point out that part of doing the work and doing the shadow work is giving your space the time to process your emotions. I just don't like crying on camera, personally. Makes me very uncomfortable. And so, yeah. But I have given myself the space to really cry and scream and let go of the heaviness of the emotions. But that is part of it. So, anyways, I just felt like it was important to point that out. So, I have a fun fact for you this week. Oh man. I guess it's kind of a fun fact, sort of. It's a little tense with the environment that we're in right now in America. That I researched this fun fact a long time ago. So this is all about Hitler and the drug usage that he had, but also that the Nazis ended up having, um, caused by him. That a lot of people probably don't know about. So from from the fall of 1941 to 1944, Hitler prior was using injectable vitamins, but then he ended up getting sick, and he had a very, very important, I believe, it was a conference that he had to go to or a meeting, and he said that he could not get sick. And so a doctor ended up giving him opiates and a hormone to make him feel immediately better. And from then on, he ended up getting addicted to opiates. And in April 1945, he ended up firing that same doctor because he ended up blaming him for getting him addicted to said opiates. Uh, Another fun fact is that in the 1930s, methamphetamine was seen as a normal drug that would help with daily performance. And it was kind of similar to a very, very strong cup of coffee. So in the late 1930s, it was concluded that meth it would help reduce the need for sleep, and it was performance boosting. So what happened with that? Hitler ended up giving it to his army, and he ended up taking it in the morning as well. I'm quite positive. So he would take opiates at night, and he would take meth in the morning. And the more you look at that, you realize, oh, maybe that had something to do with it. I also ended up reading part of, and whenever I was way younger, we were learning about World War II and Anne Frank. And I found it very, very interesting. And I remember we would go to Barnes and Noble like constantly, and I think I ended up reading part of Mein Kampf where it explained that like Hitler actually wanted to be an artist, and then his dad was super super against it, and so he ended up going to war, and he ended up getting super like he ended up going through oh god, a poisonous gas. I can't think of the name of it. Mustard gas explosion, which ended up basically causing him to lose his mind as time went on. And with his dad not being accepting of the fact that he wanted to be an artist, in conglomeration with all of the horrific trauma from the war, World War I, yeah, that ended up basically causing him to be who he was. Not saying that's an excuse at all. That is not what I'm saying. I just find it interesting. I have 2 degrees in psychology, okay? A big reason why I got into psychology is because I find it interesting as to why people do what they do, specifically serial killers. I find that very fascinating. A lot of them with serial killers, they all end up having some damage to their frontal lobe, like some sort of head injury at a younger age or even older. And because of that damage to the frontal lobe, they basically don't have the ability to distinguish between like primal instincts and logic in a way, I guess is a good way to like explain it. And so their like aggression, it just, there's no real cap to it. Like there's no real logic there, because of like the difference in their brain structure. Again, not saying that's an excuse. I just find it interesting. So that is my fun fact for the week. Okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the rest of the episode. Okay, so like I said, today we're going to be going over dreams and astral projection and the astral realm. I just find it so, so fascinating. If you know anything about me, you know that I have some extremely vivid dreams. Like, I have always had extremely vivid dreams ever since I was a small child. So, what are dreams? They are a look into our subconscious, some say. And then others say that they can be possible visions into the future. Have you ever had a dream and it comes true? That probably means that you are a seer. And others believe that it is a way to receive messages from spirit, God, creator, whoever, whatever you would like to call them, or internal messages, things that are going on internally. So, personally, I used to look up the different meanings of my dreams. I even started to read Carl Jung's book on dream interpretation because he has like a huge book on it. And I think sometimes it helps, but overall, I personally have gotten to a level where I'm able to analyze my own dreams, or sometimes other people's dreams for fun. So, I mean, if you want me to interpret your dreams, comment on the episode or email me at the lgfgpodcast at gmail, because honestly, I love that. I love interpreting dreams. Um, like I said, I've had extremely vivid, in depth dreams ever since childhood. And at one point, I was actually able to remember my dreams so well that I realized that I was going to the same dream town every single night. And I started being able to map out my dreams because I had returned to it so much. Um, and that does take a lot of energy, though. And as I get older, my dream town will shift because, like, I'll go like I've moved to a lot of different spaces, and so I've noticed that my dream town is like a bunch of like a compilation of all the different places that I've lived. But some whenever I was younger, um, there were actually parts of my dream town that I had never been to in real life. I thought it was Chicago. I don't know why. I've never been to Chicago. Um, but there was a very specific alleyway that I used to go down, and I can still like picture it in my brain of like where I lived in the dream town and like the alley that I used to go down. So very interesting. And I found out that some people do not dream in color. Some people dream in black and white. Usually older generations will dream in black and white, and like my grandma, she dreams in black and white. And I think it's because of, I think one of the theories is like because TV used to be in black and white and now it's in color. So, or maybe it's like, I think they've also said that it could just be connected to your creativity. So, yeah. But it's also said to be abnormal to be able to remember your dreams. It's said that that means that there's a break in your REM cycle. And I do wake up multiple times a night. But even whenever I don't wake up, I still can remember my dreams. I know whenever I used to smoke a lot of weed, it usually caused me to forget my dreams. Same whenever I was drinking. But even whenever I was drinking, I would have some crazy dreams. Um, which I actually decided this week as well that I think I'm just gonna be sober. I like was trying I like got my keep in mind whenever I was like in my peak alcoholism, I was drinking like at least I would drink 2 to 3 Long Islands a night plus a shot, and that would like get me to my spot. Or like whenever it was in the real bad, I was drinking like a handle or like at least like 2/3 of a handle to myself. Like that's crazy. And I finally got it down to like I drink like maybe a drink once every 3 to 6 months. But I've just realized that it causes my mood not whenever I'm drinking, but like the following days for like 3 to 4 days after. I end up getting extremely depressed and angry and irritated and suicidal. And so I have just decided after this week, because I had one drink this week and I ended up feeling that way for like 3 days. I just decided I don't want to drink anymore. So I decided since last Wednesday, so it's almost been a full week, because I'm recording this Tuesday night. Um, that I'm just gonna be sober from now on because I'm basically already there, so might as well. And I'm almost 2.5 years sober from cocaine. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So that's awesome. I barely smoke weed these days. I can't do it. I'm too old. I can't do it no more. Not saying that it has anything to do with age. Just that I just can't handle it anymore. I prefer to have my panic attacks sober. Thank you. But anyways, going back to dreams. So it said that certain herbs help with vivid dreams, which includes mugwort. So you can drink mugwort or have it near, I think, like in your pillow. And I have a theory that the astral realm or dreams is kind of like an iCloud space that we all go to, because there have been stories of people meeting other people that they've never met in real life, and that person actually exists in the waking life. And I've actually had dreams that include people that I do know, and they remember the dream as well, but like from their perspective. Um, if you feel inclined to say that you have really crazy dreams, it might be good to keep a dream journal, because sometimes it's not only like subconscious messages, sometimes it's also spiritual realm messages. And I prefer to like type it on my phone versus trying to write it. I tried to write it and it didn't, I wasn't able to read my writing. So I started typing it and that helped a lot. Um, and somebody else's perspective or some people's perspective is that life is just a dream, and that stepping beyond this dream or this story that we live in into creator mode can help you step out of survival mode because you realize that you are a co-creator in this reality versus just surviving in it. And so basically the question is like, if you step beyond just your day-to-day life and you wonder who is watching you, um whatever that like spaces that you think of, that's your real consciousness. And so just even taking that step back from being like, oh, who is actually watching the story, it helps you kind of disconnect, and it helps you kind of see, it helps you detach, and it also helps you see life more as a play because you realize that if you step back from just the 3D, you're able to step more into creator mode. and do things that you actually want to do versus just being in survival mode. Um, oh, and also some say that dreams are just alternate realities that we are living in. Like, I know that sometimes I work in my dreams, or I'm pretty sure that I have seen past lives in my dreams, or sometimes I even see myself in different bodies, or like viewing the moves of others. It's like very strange. And it is also said that if you want to manifest something, to do it right before you fall asleep. So picture it as vividly as you can as you're falling asleep with all the emotions and the feelings. And then also do it whenever you wake up. And basically, you'll keep manifesting through the night, through your dreams. So, moving forward, what is the astral realm? It is a different plane of existence that we go to whenever we are sleeping, in deep meditation or in trances. We are, as I said, we are souls slash spiritual beings that are having a human experience. So while our physical bodies need rest, our souls do not necessarily need rest like the way that our human body does. Um, and like our spiritual bodies might need to like fuel up by like filling your cup and stuff and things that bring you energy, but physically resting doesn't necessarily do that. Like, not the way that our physical bodies need it every single night, if that makes sense. And I think that the best method for that to be able to like um, fill your energetic cup is to get energy from source or the earth. At least for me personally, I think it changes from person to person. And something else that I've learned, as I said in a previous episode, is that some people just drain others, and that is why our energy is so precious. It's like currency. There is an energetic cord that connects our body to our soul. And whenever we go into the astral realm or any other realms, we are still connected by that energetic cord. But I also remember reading a story, or maybe I was listening to, I think I was listening, maybe. There's one podcast that I really, really love, and it's called And That's Why We Drink, and it's a true crime and paranormal podcast, and I absolutely love it. I definitely recommend it to everyone. If you like either of those things, and they do a viewer episode where people will send in like their stories. Um, I don't remember if this was in that, or maybe I just read it on Reddit. But I remember that there was a story about a girl who ended up astral projecting, and she almost fully walked in through a portal through her room. Like, this portal opened up in her room, and whenever she was asleep, like, she looked back at her body, and her cat was like, sleeping next to her, and she was asleep. Her body was asleep, and so she ended up looking into this portal, and she saw like this very Egyptian like space. And she was like watching what was going on, and she popped her head back into her room. And whenever she looked back at her body, her cat was like freaking out because she had stopped breathing. So she immediately went back into her body, which makes me wonder about people who have like passed away in their sleep. I wonder if they just like hopped through a portal. I don't know. I don't know. No, not everybody, but I don't know. Um, And there's also different levels of the astral realm. There's the upper, the middle, the lower, and the back rooms as well. Um, I have been to all of those levels, and you probably have as well, but you might not have remembered. I went to the lower realm, I've gone to the lower astral realm many times. And that's actually from that story that I ended up seeing my best friend. Me, her, and my other friend ended up going to this house party. And we were going there to like pick up drugs or something in the dream. And I ended up going back into this space where I was like trying to meet with the dealer, and I like needed to take a shower or something like that, but I wasn't able to. And then it ended up getting really dangerous really fast. And so I ended up leaving. I ended up telling my friend Keese in the dream that we needed to leave and that he needed to go and pick up my best friend out of the house because she had like gone into the living room and we were like trying to get her out, but she was like falling asleep like in the front room and like we weren't able to get her out. And so I was like, okay, this is getting dangerous. Like we need to go, but we need to make sure that we don't leave her here. And so I told him to go back into the house while I was getting the car ready. I remember I had a like a red convertible car and he ended up going back in and he's like, oh, I can't get her to like come out. And I was like, no, like you have to like, like we have to get her out of there. And I think we did end up getting her out of the house. But I ended up texting her about it the next day and she was like, oh my God, dude, like I was there and I remember it. And it was like, basically she said, we were definitely in the lower astral realm. And she said that, like the walls were like basically sinking into her and like making her feel really tired. And so she didn't have the energy to get up and leave because she wanted to sleep there. Um, and so, yeah, with the, it's, that's what I mean. I feel like it's just an iCloud. I don't think I've really had a lot of shared dreams with other people. Um, but yeah, I don't like the lower astral realm. I think of it like the hood of like the astral realm. Like there's a lot of danger there. The energy is very dense and chaotic. It's very heavy. It's very dark, and there's a lot of not nice entities and creatures on that realm. So I don't like going there. Um, with the upper level, it's kind of more of like paradises, like Atlantis or heaven. I've gone to the upper level. I like the upper level a lot, but I don't go there very often. I ended up going there whenever I was a child, and I ended up going to heaven, what I think was heaven. It was like in the clouds, and it was like this. I can like still picture it. Like, this is what I mean when I say that I can remember my dreams. And it was like this beautiful like pillar castle place in the clouds that was like had all marble floors and was beautiful and bright, and there were angels there. And I don't remember what happened there. I think I ended up falling asleep on a cloud and then I woke up in real life. But I do remember saying that a lot as a kid, like, oh man, I miss like sleeping on the clouds. Which is why I definitely I wonder about like heaven and hell versus like just being um, mindsets. It's something that I struggle with, but then I remember I have like dreams about that. So I don't know, but yes. So upper level is more like paradise places, and then the middle is mostly where personally most of my dreams occur. I personally think that the spiritual realm is separate from the astral realm, and I think a lot of people agree with that. Um, but there are definitely a lot of different beings that lurk on the astral realm. So, is the astral realm real? Is a common question, or is it just our psyche? Because I think it's both. And then moving forward into lucid dreaming versus astral projection. So lucid dream, well, with astral projection, my understanding is that it is whenever you are lucid enough in your dreams that you are able to be intentional with where you go in the astral realm. Lucid dreaming is whenever you become aware in a dream, and you realize, oh, I'm dreaming. Um, and you kind of realize that you have control over the dream. And with a lot of practice, it is said that you can eventually control your dreams like completely, and soon you can control where you go. Now, this is different than shifting, which I will go into in a second. Um, but something else that I find very interesting is that with shared dreams that we can tap into, there are certain places that we can go, like the mall. Like there's a whole thing about like mall dreams or airport dreams, and I'm going to get into that in a second as well. um But whenever you become lucid and with the whole astral projection realm, I think a big, huge, sorry, my notes are kind of like all over the place right here. I really should have gone through and organized them better, but we're here. It said that whenever you lucid dream, coming back to that, or whatever it may be, it said that if you ask the characters in the dream um, what time it is, or say that you are not dreaming, they will get very, very angry with you, which is true because I have definitely become lucid and then I've like become violent, or gone on like crime sprees in my dreams. And then I end up getting arrested in my dream and I'm like, oh, I thought it was a dream. And they're like, no, this is real life. And then I end up waking up. Um, um, Personally, I ended up astral project. I've only astral projected a couple times that I probably have done it more. One of them was recent. I ended up going through a door, and I ended up like flying into this other realm that I had never been in before. And it was like this forest at like in the middle of the night. There was like a taco truck there. And I like was able to drive my car into it. And then I got out of my car and it was weird. I guess I don't know if that's technically astral projection though, because I wasn't controlling it, but I went through the wall, and that's like kind of the whole thing is like you push through the wall and then you like astral project. Um, but I remember one of my dreams that I astral projected, I guess, was that I went into a space casino. I guess you could call it a space casino. Um, and I ended up, I was like in this, like I was in this Halo 2 scene where I was like on the bridge, and I ended up, there was like a bunch of like war going on in the dream. And then there was like this one part that you could like walk through, and usually there's an attendant there. And I ended up just walking through because I was like, huh, I wonder what's over here. And I went through and I walked into this casino type building, and I couldn't read anything. Like it was all in this weird hieroglyphic language that I had never seen before. And there were like all of like these alien type beings around me. And I was like, oh, hey. And I was like thinking, I was like, I gotta blend in. I gotta blend in. But I didn't have any like money to like gamble or anything there. And the other beings there were like, there's a human in here. Like, what is going on? So then the security guards ended up coming and bringing me into the back, into this office. And they were like, how did you get in here? And I was like, oh, I just walked, I just walked through the gate. Like, there was a war and nobody was at the gate. They all died. And they were like, you can't be here. And then I woke up shortly after that. Um, but yeah, super crazy. Lucid dreaming and astral projecting is such an interesting thing to me. Um, Something that you can do to practice lucid dreaming is you can do reality testing, which, like, for example, if you draw a symbol on your arm and you like check it throughout the day before you go to sleep, then you'll probably automatically check it whenever you go to sleep. And you'll see it there, or you can ask yourself throughout the day, am I dreaming? Or another thing that you can do is you can check the time. And if you check the time multiple times in a row and the time changes, that's usually a sign that you're dreaming. Or if you try to use your phone and it's like not working, that's a sign you're dreaming. Or if you try to read something and you can't read it, sometimes that's a sign as well. But it just takes practice. I do it, it comes easier to some. I know I do it accidentally a lot. Like sometimes whenever I become lucid in my dream, it kind of becomes scary because I forget my lines, and that's usually when they figure out that I am awake and that I'm lucid. Because I guess not a lot of people can do it. And then if you're trying to practice astral projection, you can practice that by sitting up out of your body as you fall asleep. Um, that's a big thing, is like as you fall asleep, don't physically sit up, you like mentally picture sitting up out of your body, and then that's like a way that you can astral project. Um, but just be careful because like I've also heard that the more that you practice astral projection, the more what's the word I'm looking for? Prone. There we go. Prone you are to sleep paralysis, which I do not. I don't like sleep paralysis. I don't think I've ever dealt with it, but I don't want to. Knock on wood. So yeah, those are some techniques that you can do with astral projection. Is another technique, like I said, is you can push through a wall to try to astral project, like as you're falling asleep, like picture a wall in front of you, I think, and then like, or a door, and like push through it. And that's another way that you can astral project. That's called like breaking through. And also just being intentional before you fall asleep of where you want to travel. Usually you need to practice lucid dreaming to get into that phase. And you can also astral project into other dream worlds, but please be careful because you don't know what protection they have over their astral dream world, or their astral body, and you can get stuck. Plus you should really have consent before you try to go like meet up with somebody on the astral realm. So keep that in mind. So moving forward with shared dream spaces, um, this is something that I was touching on very briefly earlier. So shared dream archetypes or architectures. If you've ever been in like a large space, you might know what I'm talking about. Shared dreams are might include endless malls, dimly lit schools, massive hotels, hospitals, airport terminals, liminal hallways, familiar but wrong houses, water parks, and then there's also another one that I don't think I wrote on here. Oh yeah, it's the 90-degree bridge. I don't know if you guys have been to that bridge. I hate going to that bridge. And I guess it turns out that it's like a real place in like Japan or something, or like I feel like maybe a Hong Kong. I don't know. I think it's Japan. But it's like I've been to this like 90-degree or almost 90-degree. No, I think it is 90-degree like highway. I hate it. It reminds me of that one episode of SpongeBob where he's like trying to he go oh my god, I just realized I think that that was like supposed to be a metaphor for the astral realm. Oh my god, maybe I'm wrong. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? With the SpongeBob episode with the bus, and he like goes down the 90-degree road, and then he has to like catch the bus, and he's like in the lower astral realm. Oh my god, I just made like a whole connection. But okay, going back. So it's said that like with the shared dream archetypes, that a lot of us have gone to these places. Libraries, I think, are another one. But basically, it's like a place where multiple people have visited these same spots. And a theory behind that is because we are tapping into the collective consciousness. As I said earlier, one of my theories with the astral realm is that it is basically an iCloud that we like can all tap into. And it's basically like tuning into different radio frequencies. Now, another space that is a shared dream space is the back rooms. And personally, I have only been there once that I remember, and I don't want to go back. I ended up, I remember in the dream, my boyfriend had told me, don't eat the candy. Whatever you do, do not eat the candy. And then in the next part of the dream, I was like in this like roller coaster bucket, wooden bucket thing. And I went through this door, like double doors, and I was in this white space. And there was this huge sign for a roller coaster sign that said, "Welcome to Rainbow Land." And like I ended up coming up and stopping, and there were these two buckets of nerds candy. And I ended up reaching in, and I took a bite, and then I immediately spit it out. And I was like, oh no, I wasn't supposed to eat the candy. And I looked up, and the way the roller coaster was it wasn't really connected to anything. It was just floating in the sky. But it was like all spun around. Like it was like a kind of like the Batman ride at or maybe not the Batman ride. Maybe more like Mr. Freeze at Six Flags in Dallas. but it's like a bunch of those, like just floating in the sky. Mm-mm. And then after I ate that candy, I immediately got ripped out of the back rooms and I got thrown into like the lower astral realm in this other dream. And then I got stuck inside of a dream, inside of a dream, inside of a dream. And it took me like 3 to 4 dreams to wake up. I hate those dreams. And the worst part was that I started reality testing and I was like knocking on like the wooden dresser, and it felt real. Like I knocked on it and I was like, that feels real. And I was like touching it and I was like, that feels very, very real. Nope, I was 3 dreams deep. So, um, it said that the backrooms were only created on creepypasta and 4chan, but now it is more known. And there's actually a game called Superliminal, which is all about being stuck in the backrooms. I think it's free on Xbox Game Pass. And it's a puzzle game. Basically, you end up using the perspective of different items to be able to get through the different levels, but there's like elevator music playing the entire time, and you're in the back rooms. So key elements of the back rooms is that it's usually endless yellow or like, I don't know how to like old office kind of space rooms. But they're usually endless rooms with stained carpet, buzzing fluorescent lights, and no windows. There's usually a sickeningly familiar smell like mold or stale air. And then there may or may not be creepy entities that may inhabit the deeper levels. There's no time, there's no exit, and there's infinite layers. And it feels like a dream that you've had before, but you can't place it. And they are a lower astral layer or a glitch like astral subspace. So I don't like the back rooms. I've seen a lot of videos of them, but personally, I am not a fan. Other common dreams include teeth falling out, being seen in the nude in public. Oh, I hate those dreams. Going on stage and forgetting your lines. Server dreams. If you ever waited tables, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, I hate it because it'll be like, oh, like, oh, I hate these dreams. Like, I'll walk in to the whole dream, usually will be that I will walk into a restaurant, maybe that I've worked before, maybe that I haven't, and immediately they throw me on the floor and they're like, hey, you have tables like 301, 402, and 601 or something. And then I don't know where the tables are because it's my first day. I don't know any of the menu, and I'm moving super, super slow trying to get water, and time is moving really fast, but I'm moving really slow. And yeah, and I ended up speaking with one of my old coworkers, and she said that one of her worst server dreams is that she used to like um have like a bunch of tables and there would be 2 different floors, and then she would have to like have all the tables on the first floor and the second floor, and she'd have to like run food, but like the stairway would keep moving, and so she'd like have to keep running up and down like this moving stairway and have to like get all the tables on level 2 and level 1. I was like, oh no. No, 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 no. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people who have waited tables know exactly what I'm talking about. Other common dreams include being chased, dying, flying, being back in school slash test anxiety, driving but not being in the driver's seat. I hate that dream. I hate those dreams. Another dream, I honestly, I hate most of these dreams. Another dream is falling, doors to parallel universes, the broken highway slash 90-degree highway, and then passed on relatives coming to visit. Okay, now I'm going to move into shifting. Okay, so for shifting, this is something that is much newer to me, but I have a very good friend who is very big into the shifting community. And there are some videos on YouTube about it. I'm definitely not very well versed on this. So I'm going to do my best from the notes that I've learned and then just like what I've learned from her and um, just like techniques that I've looked up. So I know that it's a technique that you can do for dreaming where you can shift into a desired reality or a DR, such as a fantasy world like Harry Potter, for example. And this is done through intention and a deep meditation prior to falling asleep. It is the movement of your whole consciousness and awareness into an alternate reality versus like just your soul moving into a different reality, which is what makes it different than Alice in Wonderland. Or, oh my God, I'm reading my notes. Makes it different than astral projection. I'm sorry. So you can script what you want that DR to look like with details, and you can get really into it before you do the leap. And some of people think of this as like quantum leaping, but personally, I think of it as something different. Again, I'm not like super well versed on shifting, but I learned that there are different methods that you can try. So there is the Raven method, which is lying starfish style, repeating affirmations while visualizing your DR. There is the Alice in Wonderland method, which is visualizing yourself following someone like a character down a rabbit hole or a portal. And then there's the pillow method, which is sleeping with a script under your pillow and affirming while falling asleep. And like I said, I know that there are shifting videos on YouTube that you can use as you fall asleep. And I also know that it usually takes practice, and most people don't get it on their first try, kind of like with astral projection as well. Um, I know I tried it like once and I ended up getting this really overwhelming fear about doing it, about like leaving my body. So I ended up chickening out. I think I tried it like twice and I got that same like fear and I didn't like it. So I was like, maybe I'll try this later in life, but not right now. For inception dreams, that's what we're going to move on to next. Um, I find shifting, just as a closure, I find shifting very interesting. I just don't know if I want to do it. It just scares me. Um, I find quantum leaping very interesting, like the meditation of like stepping into your highest timeline and picturing what that feels like and looks like, which I have done before. So that's always interesting to me. But I think shifting is different. So, um, with inception dreams, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about like the dream inside of a dream inside of a dream. And I'm not sure if anybody else has really struggled with this. Actually, I know that people have because I ended up seeing some TikTok videos about it. But personally, I have had multiple inception dreams as I have gotten further into my spiritual journey and as I have gotten older. And if you haven't seen the movie Inception, it's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page, where they jump from dream to dream, and then they explain that they can only go like three dreams deep. Um, I've gone up to six dreams deep, and it was horrible. It's never on purpose that I'll like jump from dream to dream to dream. Usually it's because something is trying to trap me in the dream. So I'll keep waking up in the same dream over and over. I hate it. Usually, and sometimes it happens whenever it's like in my real apartment, but it's still a dream, and then something happens um, where I like start to calm down. And I'm like, oh, this is just my apartment, and then something will happen because I've like let my guard down in the dream. Um, I think the way that I am able to wake up is I like will fall back asleep, or I'll like try to force myself to wake up, if that makes sense. But I don't know why this happens. Um, Basically, it feels like a glitch with lucid dreaming because every time I am become lucid in the dream. Like one time I ended up waking up. I thought that I had woken up and I went to hug my boyfriend, and then I realized that he had no eyes. He just had like dark holes in his face. I hate inception dreams. Um, and what I've researched, it states that basically it is something that is caused by a messed up REM cycle where your body tries to awaken, but the mind will not. It also happens whenever I fall asleep meditating. So comment if you've dealt with that. I I hate it. Um, Moving forward on how to protect yourself in the astral realm, I've heard that hanging Spanish moss in your bedroom is helpful. If anybody's trying to astral project into your dreams, that'll basically catch them. Another way to protect yourself on the astral realm is to veil. So, like I said in the previous episode, wearing a bandana is really helpful, or a hat, something that you can wear over your crown and over your third eye. Another thing you can do is picturing a white light over you as you lay down for sleep, praying for protection before you go to sleep, cleansing your bed and space. And also, another thing is do not sleep across from mirrors or TVs. Like, make sure to at least cover them, or at the very least, lock them. Like, if you don't know how to lock a mirror or TV, anointing is very good. You can also look it up. There's methods. Cats are known to be great protectors for the astral realm. Usually, if you see cats on the astral realm, they are there to protect you, depending on the context. Making a protective astral pouch with protective herbs and crystals in it is also helpful. Make sure to cleanse it frequently and remake it as needed. Sleeping with onyx or obsidian in or near your pillow. Calling out for your protector in your dream. I call it for Jesus. He wakes me up every time. There was one dream that I had. This thing was attacking me, and I started rebuking it and praying for Jesus, and I watched. I didn't see Jesus show up, but this thing had like a hand around its throat, and it like threw it off of me. So Jesus, every time that I pray for Jesus, like, Jesus, please protect me, he shows up every time. Usually I get woken up pretty quickly. Other things that can be helpful are dream catchers, but just be careful with cleansing these and the symbolism in the weaving. I know some people see this as cultural appropriation, so be careful with that as well. And then, yes, like I said prior, cleansing your bedding and your bed, as well as your home and bedroom. Prayer, camphor, and dragon's blood incense is also very helpful. And understand that if you keep waking up extremely drained or having many, many nightmares, there might be a deeper problem, such as a spiritual attack. So, I also have some crazy personal dreams. With how long this episode is, I might just do a couple because I have like a list here. I wasn't gonna do all of them anyways, but yeah, I'm gonna still talk about a couple of them. Okay, so for my personal crazy dreams, I think I'm gonna do maybe like two or three of mine, and then I also have some Reddit stories that I ended up um, looking up, just because I love reading this stuff. So let me open these links. Sorry, I should have had this ready prior. Okay, so some crazy dreams that I have had include me. Usually, if I'm like dealing with any demons or like lower vibrational entities in my dreams, I will start reading or like speaking Psalm 91 in my dreams, or I'll start speaking in tongues or rebuking whatever is near me, and that will wake me up, or it will scare off whatever I'm fighting and get it to like stop. Um, like I said, I've had to ask for Jesus to save me from dreams, and it happens every time. Like um, exorcism dreams. Oh, I hate those dreams. Usually, if I'm doing an exorcism on somebody in a dream, and the thing comes out to attack me, Jesus will show up. I already talked about the alien dream. Oh, okay. Here's one that's really short. I ended up going into the elevator that's in my apartment building, and there was like this old lady that was standing in the corner, and she ended up telling me, "You shouldn't be here." And it was really creepy. It was like lower astral realm. She was like, "You shouldn't be here." And I was like, "Oh, hey, can you like tell me where to go?" And she's like, "You shouldn't be here." And then she like floated back into the corner, and then I woke up. um Oh yeah, okay. So I have a couple. I think I'm just gonna tell you all of them. Actually, I don't know. They're kind of long, but I love sharing my dreams. So another one is that I had a dream. It was after I had a falling out with my old friend group, and I had this dream where I was living at this house, and they came to visit, and I ended up getting really angry at them because I was upset about how they had treated me, and they were being really rude to me in my dream. And then I ended up going outside and taking a golf club and smashing the windows of one of their cars. Um, and whenever I turned around, there was this director guy who was like, "All right, everybody come out." And I was like in this suburb area, and like there was all these, houses, and all these characters start coming out. Like I remember like one of them was like a mattress, and then another one was like Towley from God, why am I blanking on the name right now? South Park. And then there was just like all these different people or like beings in costumes, and he was like talking to them. And there was this person standing next to me, and the guy's like talking to everyone. He's like, "Hey, guy," and they're all sitting on the grass. He's like, "Hey, guys, it's been a great year. We had some really great productions this year doing Ruby's Dreams. Let's make sure that we keep the morale up. We have some really great scripts written for this year, um, guys. I swear." And he's like, "We have some really great scripts like written out for Ruby's Dreams this year. So like, let's bring it again. Let's have a good year this year, okay, guys?" And I look over at the person standing next to me, and I was like, "What's going on? Who are all these people?" And they're like, "Wait, who are you?" And I was like, "I'm Ruby." And immediately I woke up. So it makes me wonder, like, I don't know. And then I've also heard that like people will be on the astral realm, and they'll uh they get told that some people are like trapped there because if they stay there too long, then like other beings will take over their vessels, and then that they're like actual real people, but that they like get stuck there. Sorry, my cat is meowing. Ansel, what are you yelling at? And then another dream that I ended up having was that I was a I'm pretty sure it was a past life, and I was an advocate for interracial marriage. So that was something that was interesting. Sorry, my cat has a zoomies. I was an advocate for interracial marriage, and I had I was gay in the dream. I was a lesbian, and I ended up falling in love with this other woman. And I was married to, I don't think it was I think I was married to the mayor, but it was my current boyfriend in the dream. And he was like, "I don't care what you do as long as you're happy, but like, you need to make sure that you're not parading it around because you could get me in trouble." And he's like, "I don't care what you do. As long as you're happy, I don't care. But you need to like make sure that you're not parading it around." And then we had heard, and I was in my old grandma's house. I have a lot of dreams in my grandma's house. Um, and oh yeah, then we ended up hearing something get knocked over in the kitchen, and so then we ended up going in the kitchen, and there were some African American people there, and we had like a baseball bat, and he had a baseball bat, I had broken a glass mason jar, and they were like, "Hold on, hold on." And they had heard that I was like advocating for interracial marriage and for gay rights. And so they're like, "We need you to help us and be our spokesperson because you're white and you're like helping so many people." And I was like, I can't do that." And they're like, "You have to. Like, we need you." And then I ended up waking up, and it felt so vivid. I really think that was a past life. I don't know. Another dream that I ended up having was that I was running from the Men in Black. I've had a couple dreams where I've run from them. But I'll like run from the Men in Black, and the way that I would like dream hop is I would like go into a closet and I'd fall asleep, like in like coffin position, and then I would like wake up in another dream. Um, and then another dream that I had was that I was going on this ski trip with my old friend group. And in real life, I was looking for some mushrooms, but I wasn't able to find them. So in the astral realm, I ended up going on this ski trip. It was a really good time. And then we were all driving home. It was me and my boyfriend in his car. And then this avalanche hit us. And it like made our car roll. And it happened like four times in a row that we got like, we would like get hit by this avalanche and then like respawn, and then we get hit by the avalanche again and respawn. It took like four or six times, and then I like woke up in this library. this beautiful library. And I remember it had like a red velvet couch that I was on with like a beautiful Persian rug, and like there was a fireplace to my left, and it went up like beautiful spiral staircase that was wooden floors. And two people that I knew from my past were there. Actually, it's funny because I had a crush on both of them. One of them I dated, the other one I didn't. I was just more of like his dirty little secret kind of thing. But um, they were both there. And the one that I had dated was reading a book. And I started freaking out. And they're like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I was like, where am I? And they were like, "Oh man, you should have told us that you were tripping so hard." And I was like, "I just died like like four times." And they were like, "Oh man, you should have told us that you were tripping that hard. Like we would have helped you." And I was like, "I'm tripping right now." And so then my spirit guide ended up coming in, and he was like, "Hey, um, like let's go outside." And so we ended up going outside, and there were like all these zip lines, and they like had different levels. There were like three or four different levels. And he's like, do you wanna go fly? And I was like, fuck yeah, I want to fly. What? Like, what? What? Yes, I want to fly. And so then we ended up going up to the tallest zip line, and we like zip line down, but the zip line cord let go, and we were just like flying through the air. And then we came back in, and I didn't want to leave. I was like, that was so cool. Um, and the person in the dream who was standing next to the fireplace was still there. He was reading his book, and he looks at me and he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, don't forget to wake up." And he like slams the book closed, and I woke up in this waking reality, and I still felt like I was coming down from like a trip. Like I felt like I was coming down from like mushrooms or LSD or whatever. And I ended up looking over at my boyfriend, and I was like, oh man, we have so many people that we still need to help wake up. And he was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, "Ugh," like there's just so many. like like there's so many people to help, and like realize that like we're so much more than just these bodies. Um so yeah, that was a crazy time. That was one of my favorite dreams. And then the last dream that I have that, one second, I might have an interruption. Okay, I don't know what that was, so sorry for the interruption. um, but anyways, okay, so the last dream that I had that I wanted to share was this very, very intricate dream where I ended up, oh my gosh, there's so many layers to this dream, and it's like such vivid detail. I like told it on TikTok. But the dream was that I was back in college, and it was like I was about to graduate, and one of my friends from this life, who ended up going through addiction, ended up showing up on my doorstep in my dream. And I was living in this house. I had two double glass sliding doors and white carpeted floors. I lived there with my partner now. And my friend ended up showing up on my doorstep and was like, "Hey, I just got kicked out of my house because he was like addicted to some pretty hard stuff in the dream, and his mom didn't want him living at home. And so he was like, I'm going to be homeless. Is there any chance that I could live with you?" And I was like, "Yes, you can." But I think I had said to him that he needed to get clean. So he ended up like living at our house. And then the next day, we were having a graduation party for me. And my friend Alex, love you, Alex, I hope you're listening. She was in the dream, and she had um, basically her and somebody else, I want to say it was my friend Monica, ended up taking me up to my room in the dream, and they were like, "Hey, let's go upstairs, like we have a surprise for you." And oh, and also prior in the dream, this is important, prior in the dream I realized that my friend who had been sleeping on the couch had some really, really dark stuff that was attached to him. And so I ended up praying over him, and basically trying to banish whatever demon was attached to him. And so I didn't want other people at the party to know what I was doing. And so I ended up basically like praying over him, but I didn't want people to realize that I was a medium in the dream, because I knew that people would like lock me up for that. And so fast forward again. So my friends take me upstairs and they were like, this is an intervention. Like, we know that you're schizophrenic. And so they ended up like having all these nurses come in, and then there were like like there were all these nurses, and they were like trying to take me away, take me to the psychiatric hospital, and they started like injecting me with tranquilizers, and it took like 6 tranquilizers to get me down. And then I like finally realized um like what was going on, and the fact that I was being sedated. And so then I like started falling asleep in the dream, and then I woke up in the dream, and I was being dragged out of this elevator while I was like really drowsy by these nurses, and I ended up passing by my friend's mom who had been sleeping on my couch. I passed by his mom. She kind of looked like Jennifer Coolidge in the dream, and she was surrounded by lawyers, and she's very wealthy. And so she ended up kind of laughing about it in the dream, and she muttered something under the breath like, "Oh, that'll teach you." And then the main lawyer that was helping her out realized that like she wasn't, sorry, I don't know what is going on. I don't know like what it's picking up over here. It's kind of creeping me out though. But basically like she realized uh well, the lawyer realized that she was up to no good. And so he realized that he had just like put this innocent woman in a psychiatric hospital, and that he needed to like help me. So, because she had muttered under her breath, that should teach her. So then I ended up waking up again, and I was in a psychiatric hospital, but I was in like China. Like I wasn't in America anymore. And I realized that I needed to basically like play dumb, or like not play dumb, but like pretend as though I actually was schizophrenic. So that way they would just kind of like leave me alone. And so whenever I was like walking up in line to get my clothes, um, they ended up slipping a flip phone in my clothes. And they kind of looked at me like, hey, don't say anything, just keep acting like you're crazy. And so I did, and I like pretended like I was crazy, and I like went back to my room. Not saying that schizophrenic people are crazy. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that I was like trying to play a part. So then I ended up going back to my room, and I ended up going into my closet. Sorry, I'm trying to remember the dream. I ended up going into my closet, and I had noticed that there was a TV in my closet, a little box TV. And they had cameras everywhere in the room, but the way that these two cameras were positioned in my room was that they were like on the sides of this box TV, and they were pointed at my chest. So to the security guards, it just looks like they're like checking out my chest basically, and it just looks like I'm sitting in my closet laughing, but in reality I'm like watching TV. And then later in the dream, I ended up waking up again in the dream after taking a nap. It was like, and realizing that I was like, oh, my brother's going to come and get me. Like, my family's going to come get me. This is all going to get worked out. And I ended up realizing that nobody knew where I was, and I was in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language, in a hospital. And then in the next part of the dream, I ended up seeing my friend's mom show up at the hospital. This is like not through my perspective. It was like from like an eagle eye perspective. And she went and looked at the security cameras and like saw me laughing to myself in the closet. And she got like kind of confused, didn't really understand what was going on. But she wanted to check that I was there. And but the lawyer was working against her to try to find me and get me released. And that's why I was getting all the privileges with like the phone and the TV and stuff like that. So yeah, those are the dreams that I had from me. Again, I think that might have been a past life. I really don't know. Um, But I'm going to read you just a few Reddit dreams and then I'm going to close up. So, yeah, hopefully you've been enjoying it so far. Okay, so I have about 3 dreams from Reddit. So then I'll close up after that. Okay, so this is from the subreddit Dreams. It is from Trying to Get Saved, and the title is Dream of Jesus, January 2024, sometime before school began. This post will contain my description of the dream of Jesus Christ. The first portion of the dream was me and my sister idle in our house. Suddenly, a darkness was descending upon my house. This was characteristic of several nightmares that I had prior to this, commonly involving entities and darkness, which would terrorize me every night. By the way, I haven't read this. I called on his name out of desperation in the dream, and immediately the darkness was lifted. The darkness was replaced by a bluish, cloudy, yet bright sky. Then I was taken to this sky like place. Definitely wasn't the sky, but the texture was similar. It was of a calming blue. In a flash of light, a man appeared before me. There was something about his facial structure that I instantly recognized that it was him, Jesus. He was wearing a whitish, sort of yellow, sandy texture of a robe which covered his knees and dropped to about a third of his lower legs. His skin tone was tanned, although not dark, with a slight color gradient. I couldn't tell if it was due to genetics or due to sunlight exposure. Not trying to be racist, this is just what I saw. Slightly reddish. Definitely not the European version of Jesus I'd be familiar with all my life. For context, I wasn't a Christian nor raised in a Christian family until I saw him in my dream. The nails on his hands weren't in the center of his palms as I'd expected, since, we've all seen the icons at some point, believe it or not, but we're closer to the base of his hands, right where the palm ended and the wrist began. He had brown hair, not nearly as long as the shoulder length icons, although long by today's standards for men. They were curled like wool, as in pretty heavily curled, not just a mild wave, slightly bushy in that manner. And there were markings on his forehead and across his temples, slits of skin of a different color to the others. Some of them looked like lacerations. He had a rather short beard. He had a kind of expression on his face, a high brow ridge, and he had a golden sash around his robe. From what I recall, it was diagonal, from the left shoulder to the right side of the waist. His eyes were extremely bright. They were a greenish, bluish color, more green than blue. The colors in that vision were really weird. I would describe the brightness of his eyes, in effect, not as blinding light, but looking in those eyes into his gaze was like being dunked in a vat of ice cold water immediately after waking up, half asleep from a nap. Sorry if my articulation fails here. I keep tripping when it comes to this dream every time. It felt like the light was an extension of his being, not just something coming off of him. And I wasn't able to speak, but still articulate my thoughts before him. My question was, what should I call him? Call you. 3 names popped in my head, although he didn't say anything. Yohashua, Yeshua, and Joshua. I woke up a moment before that without any fatigue in my body, which is strange, since I usually feel drowsy after waking up. One more thing to mention is he seemed around 5'10" to 5'11" in height, but at the same time, because of the strange perspective, he seemed hundreds of meters tall, if not several kilometers in height. Aside from this, the weird part was how perfect the perspective was. Yes, it was strange, but the perspective and my ability to see simultaneous things at once was perfect. And for context, I have had astigmatism for a while. I can't see things that well, and in most cases, I rely on hastily jumping from detail to detail upon an object to get an idea of what it looks like. When it comes to simultaneous perspective, I'm hopeless in my sight. I had none of these afflictions in my dream. This was perfect. So, very, very interesting. Um, interesting. Okay. I don't know if I can. Oh, yes, I can. I know how to share my screen now. I love that. I love that. I want to meet Jesus in my dreams. Maybe I'll ask him. Be like, hey, can you show up? Um, and something that I wanted to mention is I don't remember if you guys remember the fun fact that I did a while ago about the fact that the European version of Jesus is not accurate, and that it was actually taken from a Spanish church, I think it was. And yeah, so the long haired European version is not what Jesus actually looked like. However, I feel like he doesn't necessarily fully mind because he enjoys the long, luscious locks. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, here it is. So it says, "Hey guys, could you help me figure this out? I had a dream about this drawing and I'm going to share the dream here." So here are all the pictures. Ooh, 144. Very interesting. Okay, and let me stop sharing if I can figure out how. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's the dream. In the dream, I was in a dark place. I saw a huge white door, so I walked towards it, but the closer that I got, the farther it seemed. Then I fell to my knees, distressed, and began to pray, calling on any god who could help me in that moment, desperate. Then a shining silhouette appeared in front of me and reached out its hand. I asked what it was. Calmly, it replied, "Who am I? I am the world. I am existence. I am the gods. I am God. But more importantly, you are me and I am you." It disappeared and the door appeared again in front of me. There were some drawings on it that I couldn't read at the time, but I kept them in my mind. There was a phrase, "Let there be light. Those chosen by God will awaken in their time." Then an eye appeared in the center of the door. A shining hand came out from it, and from that hand came 7 boys. On their forehead, a seal, and the seal of numbers from 1 to 7. Each boy was lying on a bed, and each one was strange in his own way. The first boy, his body was motionless, but his head was swinging rapidly from the right to the left. It looked like he was dreaming, but he didn't like the dream. The second boy spoke like an adult in a language that I had never heard. The third boy could hear other men. He knew what was happening around him. The fourth boy had a piercing gaze, as if he knew who I was. The last boys, I don't remember what they did. Then the voice of that shining silhouette echoed sweetly in my ears, and it said, "You will recognize them in your physical world." I woke up. I don't even know what happened. I don't know the reason, but I just wanted to share this with you. Um, I find that super, super interesting. But somebody actually responded to this. And it's very interesting because a huge synchronicity that I've been seeing nonstop is like the all seeing eye. So, like that eye that he saw in the middle of the door, I've been seeing that constantly. So, this is what somebody responded as a dream interpretation. Wow, thank you for sharing this. I am a Christian, and a lot of what you had shared had heavy Christian symbolism. Now, not all dreams are meant to be deciphered, but a few things in yours did stick out to me, and I thought I may share some parallels in case you wanted to look into this yourself. Also, something that I was talking about with Dave this week, my boyfriend, is that I personally wonder if God is just like the future version of us and God is just our name, like our real name, and that God is just like the future version of our collective consciousness that is helping us through our evolution and growth. But it's funny because I was praying and I was wondering whether or not like the other gods were real, and God explained that he is all the gods, but that he is also me, but he's also him. And it was just, it was very interesting how that aligned. So sorry, I like totally stuttered there. Anyways, going back to what she said. So not all dreams are meant to be deciphered, but a few things in yours did stick out to me, and I thought that I may share some parallels in case you wanted to look into this yourself. Biblically speaking, God is light, and darkness is simply the absence of his light. Perhaps deep down you feel that you are in a space where you're seeking that spiritual guidance in your life, but not sure where to look, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Things that appear to be helpful could be really harmful, so it's important to be cautious where you seek that guidance from. In your dream, you called out for help, and he appeared to you. Matthew 7:7 says, "Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you." God seems to have opened the door to you and answer your call like he promises that he would in the Bible. Moving to the next part where you converse and it ends with, "You are me and I am you." I don't think this should be looked at straightforwards. It can be dangerous to compare yourself to God in a sense of having the capabilities that he does. We as humans are not omniscient or omnipotent, but we are filled with the Holy Spirit or Holy Ghost, and that is considered to be God within us as part of the Holy Trinity. It's like the voice of reason and conscience inside you telling you right and wrong. Those spiritually in tune tend to use it as a guide day to day, and it is a way that God can communicate with us. The phrase, "let there be light," was the first thing that God said on the first day of creation. Genesis 1:3. And separately, while it may not have specifically been said in the Bible, there are multiple scriptures about God's children awakening from spiritual slumber to embrace salvation, which is true. A lot of us are walking zombies before we become woke. Yeah, I know. Now for the eye on the door. I can't think of any symbolism there apart from God seeing and knowing all things. That's what I always think. It's like the all seeing eye. To me, the shining hand indicates that it's God's hand and he is sending seven sons, or perhaps they represent the seven seals in Revelation, where it talks about the end times. Each seal to be opened in heaven represents different things. This is an area which I have not been able to study much yet, but here's a quick Google search sharing the different seal meanings. The first seal, a white horse representing conquest and war, is opened. The second seal, a red horse symbolizing war and bloodshed, is revealed. The third seal, a black horse representing famine and scarcity, emerges. The fourth seal, a pale horse signifying death and pestilence, is opened. The fifth seal, souls of the martyrs cry out for vengeance. The sixth seal, earthquakes, astronomical upheavals, and a symbolic unfolding of the heavens occur. And the seventh seal, silence in heaven, is established, followed by the sounding of the seven trumpets. So, yes. Oh, she has more. She said, now, if that's what you're meant to recognize in the world, I believe that it would be quite obvious whenever the time comes. It could be something else entirely, though. Lastly, I wanted to touch on the images that you provided. On the left, the only few that I recognize are the cross, the fish, infinity, and water. If I had to, solely based on those, it would represent to me that God's love and mercy is forever without ceasing, since the cross is a common symbol for Jesus dying for the sins we committed. In times when Christianity was not allowed to be practiced, people would identify each other by drawing one half in the dirt and the other was able to complete the fish. They would recognize each other as brother and sister in Christ, which I don't remember if I did that as a fun fact or if I have that written as a fun fact, but yes, I was going to say that as a fun fact. Um, if the center of the eye is meant to represent God, then I could see that being a symbol that God watches over all of his children. And the last column showing a bird shows me of Noah's Ark when a dove was sent out and found an olive branch. Unsure about the symbol below that, though. Kind of looks like a shell to me. Lastly, that tree with the one person next to it bears fruit. When the initial thought that comes to mind is Adam and Eve, what I believe it may be a better depiction of the fruits of the Spirit, since there is only one person standing there. Galatians 5:22-23. Be the fruit, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. So circling back to you are me, I am you. We are not God, but we are meant to strive to be like him, and we compare ourselves to him in order to do better and be better people. Perhaps the last column is a representation of the trials and struggles and venturing we do in order to do such a thing, because it is indeed a challenge to bear these fruits. Before posting, I also realized that I missed the 144. This also has a heavy revelation symbolism. The number 144,000 144,000 represents a group of people who are sealed and protected by God during a time of tribulation. Yes. Very, very interesting. Whew. Okay. I got one more dream for you, and then we'll close up. So, this is by RO2 Man. This is a discussion. I fell through the earth and saw my entire life on a tree I never knew existed. Last night, I had one of the most surreal dreams I have ever experienced. I wasn't searching for anything, I was just living life as usual in a completely normal setting. Nothing strange, no signs of anything spiritual or profound, and then I started digging into the earth. I don't know why, there was no reason or purpose, I just did. And then suddenly, the ground gave way beneath me and I fell through. When I opened my eyes, I was my younger self, fully immersed in a scenario from years ago. It wasn't a memory, it felt real. The people, the setting, the version of me, it was all alive again. But instead of feeling nostalgic or safe, I felt deeply unsettled. I missed my current life. I missed everyone from the present. I felt like I didn't belong there anymore. And that's whenever I looked up and saw it. A massive tree stretching far beyond what the eye could comprehend. Each branch shimmered with a scene, holographic, glowing, yet strangely tangible. These weren't just memories, they were entire moments of my life, unfolding simultaneously. Childhood, relationships, losses, triumphs, every version of me happening all at once on different branches. It was like I was suddenly aware that all my life stages were still alive somewhere, connected through this tree that I never even knew existed. And there I was, deep below, near the roots. It felt like a sacred place, a kind of subconscious chamber. Screens floated around me, letting me view any version of my life. I wasn't watching memories, I was witnessing living time. I started looking for a way back. I didn't want to stay in that younger life. I found a kind of interface, entered a code, and then just like that, I was pulled back. But not exactly to where I left. I had lost 6 years. Everything felt instant, but the time was gone. I had returned, changed, carrying the weight of the whole tree with me. Now I can't stop thinking about it. Was the tree a metaphor for life, or for memory, or something else entirely? Was digging into the earth symbolic of death or self discovery? And why did I have to lose time to see the bigger picture? I've never felt a dream hit so deep. It did feel like my mind just made it up. It felt like something I was meant to. It did not feel like my mind just made it up. It felt like something that I was meant to see. Anyone else have a dream like this? And then somebody said, "Ah, the tree of life. I love it." Yeah, that's what I was thinking it was too. That reminds me of the Journey of Souls, which if you haven't read that book, you totally should because it's all about like um a lot of people who went into the past life hypnosis talk about the fact that they go and they watch their entire life through all these different screens around them, and they like watch through the previous memories of their life, how it happened to them, and then how it impacted other people. So that was the episode for this week. This week I am grateful for. I am grateful for being able to crochet this week and spending a lot more time with God. I also was able to go to the park last week and lay down and hang out. That was nice. I tried to paint at the park and my paints dried like immediately. So that wasn't really fun. And I made some butter chicken today. So that was delicious. And I'm thankful for that. And the two songs that I have for you this week are Heaven Up There by Palace and Risk by FKJ. And I just really enjoy FKJ's um, like album playthrough. I don't know how to pronounce that. Lang. It's Ylang. It's on YouTube, and he does a live version of it. Definitely recommend. It's good for flow state. I really like it. So thanks so much for listening. Sorry if this was like a really long episode, but I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. So hope to see you next week.